Hey everybody, welcome back. In case you missed our last episode, let me bring you up to speed. This is the main entry to our homestead, and it's in sad shape, so we decided we needed to do a little makeover to this back porch entry. It had green paint, it had brown paint, it had white paint, and it had no paint at all, and it was really hard to keep clean. It's trafficked by a lot of people and a lot of animals, and it's dirty, and it definitely needed some attention. So, we started off by power spraying off the old paint. That was super satisfying, and I was really glad that it came off as well as it did. And then we got to power spraying the rest of it. This part here didn't have any paint. It was just really dirty and worn, and it cleaned off really well. Really happy with how that turned out with minimal work. Even that white overspray over there, also in my defense, I was planning on painting the porch when I sprayed it, but that didn't happen. The steps, however, didn't power spray very well, so we decided that they were going to be pretty easy to remove, so we just popped those suckers off and we ran them through the planer instead. Planing them was a bit of a challenge because the boards were really worn in the middle and they were quite thick out towards the ends, so took a little bit of figuring out how to do that, but we got those planed up really nicely and looking good, and then we got it all reinstalled, and that brings us up to speed. Next up, a little bit more prep work. In spite of the fact that the power spraying and the planing cleaned it up really well, there were still some trouble areas that just didn't want to come clean. So I did need to sand some of those areas, and I also needed to clean up the grains a little bit. Power sprayer is a little bit rough when you're going over it that aggressively like I was, and so this helped to smooth those grains out, kind of just flatten out some of the areas that had gotten some big ridges on them. And so I'm using a pretty coarse grit disc sander here, and I wasn't really worried about leaving sand marks at all because I think that looks kind of cool. It gives it sort of a hand-sawn look, which I really kind of like, especially in a project like this. Where next up, a little bit more prep on the stairs. They cleaned up pretty well and pretty easily, didn't have to do a whole lot. Honestly though, I pushed them through the planer a little bit too fast, so they left some chatter marks, and so I was just kind of cleaning those up. But again, not a perfect project, just one that's going to be rough looking, so it turned out just fine. After all that preparation, finally the payoff. We get to apply some stain. So what I decided to go with is a stain and sealer combination. We've had a porch that was covered with polyurethane in the past, and that stuff was dangerously slick. And as I told you in the last video, we painted our other couple of porches with some gray porch-specific paint, and that stuff is so permeable that it just leaves dirt and footprints and everything in there that you just can't get out. And so that just wasn't going to be an option for us either. And we knew we wanted a natural stained look, so I decided to go with something that we already have. In our old house, right before we moved, we installed a new fence and we put a stain sealer combo on it, and I really liked the stuff. It worked really well. And so that's what this is. I had a couple of 5-gallon buckets of it left over, and so I went ahead and decided to just use it since it worked really well on the last project. I was a little bit concerned though because it's fence specific, so I went to their website and did some research and discovered that they do recommend it for deck applications as well as fence applications. And so we just decided to go with it, and we're pretty happy with how it turned out. Pausing our regularly scheduled programming to help out with one of the kids' projects. My son had a project that he wanted to stain, so we're showing him the ins and outs of putting stain on, moving the brush in one direction, pushing the stain into the grains, making it nice and smooth, and he's doing a pretty good job. And since we had the stain out, we decided let's put a coat on this bench. So this is a bench that Emily bought pre-manufactured. We just assembled it. I'm pretty sure she got tired of waiting on me to build one for the porch, So she just bought this one, but it definitely needed something to protect it. So we did a little sanding, got one coat on it, and it turned out pretty good. And here it is, the finished product. We're really happy with how this turned out. We love the look of the grains. It's just treated wood, it's nothing fancy, but it's still pretty. And we like the fact that it's old and worn. Bench looks really nice there. One lighter coat on the bench, so it's a lighter color. Looks great. Built those little boot racks to hang on the wall to help us with organizing our boots. Felt like that turned out pretty well. Had to tweak some designs that I found online to make it work for the space that we had, but we're pretty happy with how that turned out. We're hoping that we don't have any snake in our boot surprises over the summer. Looks pretty good. We're really happy with it.
Hi, Sunny. Here's an update on Sunny. She seems to be fine. We continue to keep an eye on her, and she doesn't seem to be having any problems with drying off. She's adjusting to hanging out over here with these boys. So she seems to be doing just great.
Well, if you made it this far, you definitely deserve some bonus footage of some cute calves, some fun cows, and the ever-present animal annoying ranger. This was definitely a fun project. Emily likes to tell me often that perfection is the enemy of progress. Yes, it's probably true. When I do a project, I like for it to be done right, and I don't want to look back on it and feel that there's imperfections and things that I could have done differently. But this porch definitely needed to be done, and a finished project is sometimes better than a perfect one. Yep, that's what those sniffing noses want, some cattle cubes. So there you go, guys. Hope y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching.